Alrighty. And here we are for what I believe is week 4, maybe week 5 of the AD2L Season 10 tournament. This is going to be a heroic match between Plasma Nation and zOne. For those of you out there who have been following the AD2L heroic bracket for a while, you might be asking yourself, who is Plasma Nation? And it's a good question, because they've recently undergone a facelift and a name change. They are actually the Season 9 heroic bracket winning team, Firestarter. So you'll see a lot of the same player names in there that should ring a bell for you. But the team itself has been renamed to Plasma Nation, so that's who we are going to have playing today, starting off on the Dire side. And zOne, who I don't believe I have personally cast before, is going to be playing on the Radiant side of the map. They have played in previous AD2L tournaments. Their last entry was actually in Season 7. They were in the entry-level playoff division, and they did pretty well for themselves as well, making it through the regular season and then into the playoffs, where they went undefeated up until the 4th round in their playoffs. And in there they got beaten in a best-of-3 by just one game. So they did pull out a win there, but ultimately didn't take home the gold. But enough about the past. Let's look to the future, specifically what we're not going to see in the future, and that is going to be a Bane and an Invoker, which have been banned out by Plasma Nation, excuse me, and Bounty Hunter Silencer banned out by zOne. So interesting bans from zOne. I personally hate playing against Silencers. It's one of those
10 seconds remaining.
I'm not going to say team fight heroes, but it's a counter initiation hero to the max. You see one big team fighter dive in, or one big initiator come in from Plasma Nation, and the global silence goes off, and it just kind of disrupts the entire ebb and flow of whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Ten seconds remaining.
Oh, yep. Let me make sure I have
5 seconds remaining.
my open mic going in game here, so everyone can hear me in game as well.
Team pick.
So for those of you wondering, yes, the video for this matchup is going to be made available after tonight's match, sometime probably an hour or two after the games are completed. I'll have uploaded them to my YouTube page, so keep an eye out for those. As we get into our first picks here, we're looking to start things off with a little bit of meat on both sides of the fence. You have Bristleback
5 seconds
being picked
remaining.
up by zOne, and the Lone Druid being picked up by Plasma Nation. Lone Druid kind of being favored a little bit more in this meta than he has been for a while. Beforehand, you would just see very specific pro players that kind of hovered around Lone Druid, like the Bulldog. We all know that's one of his personal favorites, that, the Nature's Prophet, the Bounty Hunter, those types of heroes. But they've reworked Lone Druid so the actual hero himself gets a benefit from leveling up a bit more. So as he's dumping all of his items into his bear, he's not just a completely squishy, nearly a support player, really, who just has to rely on his bear to be the true carry of that hero.
5 seconds remaining.
And complementing the Lone Druid, they've also picked up a Chen. So right out the door, you know Plasma Nation is going to be kind of building their team around a very push-oriented strategy. They're going to want to look to take towers early. I suspect we'll see Chen head into the jungle for at least a couple minutes, but not very long, as once he gets just a handful of valuable creeps under his belt, he's going to rotate into a lane and help try to take some of these early towers.
Dire team ban.
And in response to the push-heavy strategy that they're seeing, zOne is opting to ban out some of the hard carries that have a high mobility factor. Heroes like your Spectre and your Ember Spirit, who typically pick up either Boots of Travel on the Ember Spirit so he can be at most team fights, most pushes, or Spectre who has the ability to hunt in from anywhere in the map. So definitely fearing a bit of the global mechanics on the side of zOne. They're getting rid of the Silencer, the Spectre, etc. And they pick up a Vengeful Spirit themselves, and so far that is going to be the only true stun in the game. The Lone Druid's Bear does have an Entangle, which acts as a bit of a lockdown, but it's unreliable, especially in the early phases of the game, which is where Plasma Nation is currently going to be their strongest, unless they start picking up some really hardcore endgame heroes.
Reserve time.
And with the ban of Lycan,
Radiant team pick.
I am curious to see if they're going to put Lone Druid into the safe lane or the off lane. He's definitely viable in both positions, and of course he's even viable in the jungle, but jungling Lone Druids are typically not very effective, and with a Chen on your team, you don't want double junglers. That is for sure. And so, meeting summoned creeps with summoned creeps, zOne picks up the Visage, and so they are going to have some familiars to try to combat the Chen creeps, the Lone Druid Bear, and everything else. Plasma Nation picked up a Lich as their third pick. Now they're taking a little bit of time here with their fourth pick. On their side of the map, they've banned out, or excuse me, their side of the draft, they've banned out a bit of the sustain heroes, a bit of the heroes that are going to be able to heal up the Bristleback. So they got rid of the Dazzle, they got rid of the Witch Doctor. And both of those support heroes are also fairly decent at stalling a push between the Cask and the Weave coming out from Dazzle, and even to some effect the heal mechanic from Dazzle. It would put a slight hindrance into Plasma Nation's lineup. Nothing too crazy here. And if Plasma Nation does want to go with the safe lane Lone Druid, I'm curious to see if they would think about doing something like a Broodmother in the off lane. It's one of those heroes that can be locked out if zOne were to focus specifically on the Brood. But if you focus on the Brood, then that means you're leaving a Chen and a Lone Druid to kind of rampage over your towers in the other lane. So it's a half dozen of one, 6 of another type situation.
Drow Ranger.
And zOne reverting back to, I believe it was the big 6-8-4 combination that was the Drow Ranger Visage combo, when the Precision Aura and the Familiars from Visage were so broken that it didn't matter who you were, it could just wreck pretty much everyone on the map, especially at that level 6 mark, when the Familiars were just summoned.
Reserve time.
But so far, both teams looking like they're opting to take this game early. You have Chen Lone Druid pushing towers. You have the Drow Ranger who comes online very early, especially with her marksmanship ultimate, which just gives her just a ton of base damage really early on in the game. I'm curious to see how zOne is going to deal with the push coming out from Plasma. Are they going to look to counter push themselves on the back of Drow Visage, or are they going to look to kind of stop an unstoppable force with an immovable object, so to speak, and just stand right in front of Plasma anytime they look to push?
Dire team
in order to
pick.
stall the game out. But if they do that, Plasma Nation has picked up a Legion Commander as their 4th pick, and it's one of those heroes that continues to scale for eternity because of the functionality of Duel. Every time Legion Commander wins a team fight, she's going to be increasing in damage. So
10
an
seconds
endless
remaining.
amount of killing potential available on a Legion Commander.
5 seconds remaining.
And with heroes like Drow Ranger,
Radiant
who
team
don't
pick.
have a ton of health but have a ton of damage, if the Legion's to pick up like a Blade Mail or something, there's the potential there for Legion to kind of just wreck Drow early on, utilizing Drow's own damage. And the last pickups from Plasma is going to be Necrophos, so that's going to allow them that increased pushing time and sustain, as Death Pulse is going to be able to heal the Bear, the Chen creeps, the natural Dire creeps that are going to be in the lane, all sorts of stuff here. And got another follow here from Prop Whisperer. Thank you very much, Prop Whisperer. Always appreciate it. We're waiting on
10
just a
seconds
couple
remaining.
heroes here to pick their final, or to get into position. I
5
suspect both
seconds,
teams are
5
kind of
seconds
talking about their
remaining.
strategy, talking about how they're going to play this one out. And we are in. Let me switch over to the default HUD. Throw on the
Time for
Darmin overlays,
preparations.
and we'll get straight into it as both teams are quickly leaving their base and grouping up. So on the side of Plasma Nation, you can see they've already picked up 3 smokes and got one smoke over here on the side of X Zone. I would like to go through introductions, but I think I won't have time for that, as there's going to be a big team fight here at about the 10-20 second mark, and they're going to run into Vengeful Spirit first, and it's going to be Lich versus VS in the front lines, but it's a full 5v5, and Magmine throwing out a huge overwhelming odds. It's going to hit 4 heroes and yield first blood here, as VS is the first to fall, followed by Lich, but the fight's not over yet, as Plasma Nation chases down Visage on the back lines. And in the middle here, they look to zone out the Queen of Pain. They're able to do so. And so starting things off before the bell rings, you have a 2-for-1 fight, slightly favoring Plasma Nation, and it's going to allow the
Heroes
Necrophos here
rode
to
out
secure
to the
bottom
field
room. But
of
the fights
glory.
aren't over quite yet, as Chen has invaded the Radiant jungle and is forcing Drow Ranger back into lane with just that lethal Chen right-click damage coming out. And now he's running forward, and he's just looking to pick a fight. Now he's standing toe-to-toe with Visage, and I think he's decided, yeah, this isn't a fight I'm going to win. As he drops below half health, he retreats back into the jungle, and he'll make his way back to safety for now, as Vengeful Spirit gets back into position and looks to assist Visage if the fight were to continue. So I think we have now officially entered the laning phase. Gotten through the first team fight before the 0-minute mark. So let's see if these teams will let me go through introductions without me missing a kill here. I'm most worried about this bottom lane. There's just a bunch of harassment coming out, and the stun committed against Duralius here as they look to tower dive the tier 1 here, trying to pick off the Lich, but it's not going to be there. Magmine, however, following these supports up, throws out yet another overwhelming odds, and it hits 2, getting the first kill against VS, and then with the rotation coming out from Chen, they're able to secure another kill against Visage. So it's a 2-for-0 trade, even better than that 0-minute mark, as this bottom lane continues to play hyper aggressive and look to take fights very early. Magmine trying to recover a little bit there by getting a clarity potion tossed onto him, presumably by one of his supports, but it's quickly knocked off by the Drow Ranger. who's now going to be chased down by one of the Hellbears, and the right clicks coming out from Chen. There's going to be one. Can you get two? There's two, but Visage intelligently slowing down that Hellbear Smasher is actually going to save the Drow's life. I think if that slow hadn't landed, the Drow would have been finished off by the Chen creep there.
Bottom is missing.
Until they get back into position. And the mid lane, Queen of Pain taking some damage, almost right clicked to death by the Necrophos. And Vengeful Spirit has rotated away from that horrible, horrible bot lane into the mid lane, where she's hoping to recover a little bit here by either stacking or rotating into the mid lane to secure a kill against Necrophos. Super Holistic, thank you for following, man. Appreciate it greatly.
God rest your soul.
Meanwhile, on the bottom lane, the aggression continues as everybody on both sides of the map is forced into the jungle beneath the Radiant Tier 1, and it's a 3-hero squad committing to the tower dive from Plasma Nation is able to secure the kill against Drow. That one actually going the way of Chen.
Top's gone missing.
But Visage rotates into the lane, kills the Chen, but ultimately gives up his life in the process. So it's a 2-for-1 trade in the bottom lane. Meanwhile, in the middle lane, Necrophos was able to secure himself a kill against the Queen of Pain. Wasn't able to catch both fights at the same time. This Plasma Nation squad just taking the fight into the Radiant side of the map and forcing fights all across the map simultaneously. So you have to feel sorry for the supports like Visage and Vengeful Spirit. They're certainly trying to help their cores out in all of the lanes, but when there's 3 separate fights breaking out in 3 separate lanes, and you can see here in the top lane, it's going to be the first death of Bristleback as Kupo is able to chase him down there with the bear at minimal health, getting a pretty lucky entangle there, as Bristleback tried to make his escape and wasn't able to do so. Chen, meanwhile, is playing so aggressive that he's not even hanging out in his own jungle. He's instead choosing to farm the Radiant's jungle for creeps. Necrophos, realizing he's kind of surrounded here, is pinging out for help, and Chen shows up. They get a nuke off against Queen of Pain, but now it's a 2 versus 3 situation as zOne kind of rotate around, seeing if they can bob and weave, but with the Necrophos being level 6, they're going to quickly drop the Vengeful Spirit and then turn their focus onto Queen of Pain. And with plenty of mana and regen coming out from the Sadist, the Necrophos isn't done. He rotates forward on the back of Chen, his army, and the rotating Lich. They're able to get their 3rd kill of the fight, dropping Visage once again. So non-stop aggression coming out from Plasma Nation. We're not even 6 minutes into the game here, and you're going to see yet another kill as Magmine, Duralius, and ABC all dive the tower once again to secure that kill against Drow. Meanwhile, on the top lane, you have Kupo eating a fair amount of bristle damage, but ultimately he comes out the victor as he secures yet another kill against the Bristleback.
He's under attack.
So just tons and tons of damage, tons of team fights coming out. You see the multiple teleports coming out here in the bottom lane. Duralius eating the first stun from VS, but he's going to be able to get away from the tower just barely as Visage rotates in as well. And Magmine doesn't care. His supports have fallen back, but he's rotating forward. Meanwhile, the creep wave continues to chip away at this tower, and it's under 300 health here, 6 minutes into the game. So for those of you who have picked up the Winter Compendium and are looking to secure a tower within the 13-minute mark, which I believe is one of the first quests for the carry quest track, if you will, this is definitely one way to do it. They will certainly get a tower beneath our tower down within 13 minutes. And for now, they're going to look to get another kill, focusing on Visage, but it's going to be interrupted by a stun from VS, and a gust coming out from the Drow Ranger as she tries to keep Magmine at bay just a little bit, but as she does so, she drops below half from just the non-stop nuke damage coming out between overwhelming odds and the Lich Frost Blast. Meanwhile, Chen's constantly hanging out kind of behind enemy lines here, ready to dive at a moment's notice, and that's exactly what he's going to do here. And two big shockwaves coming out from the Chen creeps is just going to melt the Drow Ranger, and now they've surrounded and trapped VS in the jungle. Magmine gets his first duel off of the game, and that'll be an easy win for him, yielding 10 additional damage. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, been trying to catch as much of the combat as I can, but when they're averaging more than 2 kills a minute, it's hard to keep up with them, as Necrophos in the middle lane here is able to drop the Queen of Pain yet again. Bristleback sitting at about half HP and trying to stack up as many quills as he can. He's going to look to get a kill here as he dives after Kupo, committing the nasal goose and the quills, but ultimately backs off as the bear is resummoned to Kupo's side. He threatens to push into the Bristleback, and now he looks to harass with the bear and look for that lucky entangle once again. Meanwhile, in the bot lane here, the tier 1 tower has already fallen. And Queen of Pain jumps forward, catching Magmine out while he's trying to just farm some neutrals here, and he's not going to be able to get away with that without a contest here from X-Zone. So X-Zone are going to be able to double their kill count here as they're successfully able to kill the Chen and the Lich, but it's at the cost of a Queen of Pain, and now Necrophos is rotated in as well. And he's trying to take this fight 1 versus 3. So as aggressive as they've been playing, I don't know if that was the smartest move. He may have assumed that the Legion Commander was still in position there to help out, making it a 2 versus 3, but the YOLO diving Necro ultimately falls here, and you can see they're so far ahead right now that it's just a massive gold jump and a massive experience jump for X-Zone there, getting a single core kill like that. So it's been trending downward, and before the, it looks like 8-minute mark, they're already 10k ahead and committing the first beach ball of the match. Lich is going to secure a kill against Drow Ranger while Magmine gets his second duel off and finishes what was left of the Visage. Meanwhile, up here you have Kupo, who's rotated into the jungle, and Queen of Pain making some aggressive rotations of her own. Necrophos is on the chase here. He's able to find the Bristleback, but it's Kupo who's jumping forward here, and between the right clicks of the hero and the mawing of the bear, he's able to finish off the Bristleback, who had been greatly wounded by the Necrophos. Queen of Pain sitting on top of a double damage and a bottled arcane rune. She's going to have 30 seconds for her ultimate, but she's going to look to make use of this as much as she can here. Meanwhile, on the bottom lane, the Vision continues to be choked out here by Plasmination as they are dewarding the enemy jungle as they've kind of sat in it the entire game. And so you can check out the Vision down here in the bottom left corner. It's pretty limited into what X-Zone can see. On the top lane, you can see here the meat wagon patrol that is the Plasmination lineup here. You have 2 centaurs, you have the Tormentor there in the background getting rotated out, the bear, the Necrophos, Lone Druid in his shapeshift form, and behind all that you have the Necrophos there to Death Pulse heal everything anytime it gets damaged. Bristleback surges forward, tries to get some damage off, but he just immediately gets overwhelmed, surrounded, stunned, and right-clicked down to a manageable level where the Reaper Scythe from Necrophos is able to finish him off and tack on that additional death timer, so he's going to be out for an additional 30 seconds, even though he's still only level 8. Meanwhile, down here, ABC's rotating in the Chen army to harass the Drow and Visage out. But as he does so, he's going to eat a big ultimate from Queen of Pain. And so he ultimately goes down as the Drow Ranger tries to finish off the Necrophos, but it's just a slaughter here as Plasma Nation are able to pick up kill after kill. You had the dual win by Magmine, and Lone Druid just kind of being left to his own devices to right-click down everyone in the back lines there. So it was a 1-for-2 trade it was a 5-for-2 trade at the end of the day. They did lose the Chen. They ultimately lost the Necrophos as well, but they got a team wipe, they got a tower, and they've done some chip damage here to the tier 3 tower in the top lane, dropping it to under 1200. Getting a respect call to Chen players from Twitch chat. Chen is definitely one of those heroes that, when played correct, can just massively change how the game looks and feels on both sides of the map. A lot of times in Pub Dota, you see Chen players who head into the jungle and don't emerge for 15-20 minutes. They're like, no guys, I need to get my Ags, and I need to get a mechanism, and I need to get blah 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 blah. I need to get level 11. ABC is level 7 at this point. He has a Chen army, and he has just been all over the map. You just saw him top. He's already bottom. He was harassing early on alongside Magmine. He pretty much hasn't been in the jungle. He's bobbed and weaved inside of the Radiant jungle a little bit just to steal creeps, but then he's getting back to work. And you can see here he's moving those creeps into position to help Magmine secure this dual win. The dual win isn't going to connect, but they are able to finish the Visage off after the duel was completed. So the Chen creeps moving a little too slow to be effective there, but as I try to catch two different battlefronts, I miss both the deaths as the Drow falls in the middle lane there, and in the bottom lane Necrophos finishes off the VS. And just like that, GG is called before 14 minutes. I think this may set the record for the fastest AD2L game I've ever cast. Apologies to both teams for not getting introductions done at the beginning stages of the game. It's just been non-stop combat, non-stop pushing from the second the heroes entered the game into the 14-minute mark. Plasma Nation averaging more than 2 kills. They're averaging more than a kill every 30 seconds across the map. And you can see it wasn't one hero who did it either. It was pretty spread across the board. The only slight outlier there is Lich, who went a measly 4-2, but he also had 14 assists. So he was by no means exempt from the combat, just not getting those killing blows. So amazing performance put on by Plasma Nation here as they're able to take a game inside of 14 minutes with a hyper aggressive, all in, let's roll up some towers early on strategy, and that is exactly what they did. We'll be back momentarily here for Game 2 between zOne and Plasma Nation, and let's see if zOne are going to have an answer for this lineup. See if they're going to mix things up and change up their ban order. I'm sure they won't want to see any of those heroes in Game 2, but they're going to have to change something up because Game 1 was definitely not in their favor here. And I promise I'll get through introductions of both teams here in Game 2. So stay tuned and we'll be back shortly. Thanks.